Are there do-overs?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We just keep rolling.
Okay.
Okay. Anytime you're ready.
And what I'll do, Ray, to start is I'll just ask you to say your name and spell it. And then,
Okay.
Yep.
All right. My name is Ray Kogovsek, spelled K-O-G-O-V as in Victor, S-E-K.
Kogovsek.
Kogovsek.
Big G-O for...
And hold on just a second, because I'm going to be your hairdresser here.
Oh, yeah.
Here, I got a...
What little bit is left.
Oh, you got a full head of hair compared to me. Here.
Does that look better?
Yeah.
I could throw in some ad-libs like, just spell my name. It's a difficult name. I was 15 years old before I could really spell it correctly.
You ready, Steve? Okay. Tell me about the first time you met Dennis Gallagher. What happened about that?
Dennis Gallagher. I remember the year, 1970. I had just got elected to the state senate. Dennis was taking a seat in the state house. And we met probably in that first week. Dennis Gallagher, during his one term in the state house, was a completely different person than Senator Dennis Gallagher. I think we had a camaraderie right off the bat because I remember having the conversation with him. Dennis seemed to be a little nervous, a little quiet when he was starting to serve. And I said, Dennis, when I first came here, I was scared to death. I was afraid that these people were going to find out how dumb or how stupid I really was. And I says, I kind of feel that you're feeling the same way. Well, I says, you're going to find out probably in about 1 week, Dennis, that all of these guys are just as dumb as us or just as smart as us, whatever. And he kind of got a kick out of that. But he learned, I mean, he did a good job in the State House, but once he got to the State Senate, Dennis really turned on in a very good way.
So how many years did you serve together in the Senate?
I guess probably 6 years, because I served 8 years in the Senate, and 2 of those was when Dennis was in the House. So 6 years, and he was always the kind of guy you could count on when you're the Democratic minority leader in the House. He wasn't afraid to vote against his caucus, but I would say that probably, as good a Democrat as he was, he probably voted against the caucus 1 or 2 times. He was a very dependable Democrat, a very dependable state senator.
In those years, obviously, it was difficult for a Democrat to pass legislation. Do you have any memory of any legislation that Dennis was able to get passed?
Well, obviously, the Gallagher Amendment, which is still, that was difficult because there were a lot of Republicans, obviously, who didn't think it was a good idea. Dennis made a good representative, an excellent representative for the senior citizens of not only the people in his district, but for the senior citizens of the whole state. He worked hard. We all worked hard to get that done. Dennis is the one who introduced it. Dennis is the one who got it passed finally, but it wasn't easy.
Was it a lot of Republican opposition?
You know, I'm trying to think back. There was some Republican opposition, mainly coming from Joe Shoemaker on the JBC, people on appropriations, people who were on the Finance Committee. I don't know, maybe for 2 reasons. Maybe they really didn't believe in it, but how could you not believe in the Gallagher Amendment? My God. But yeah, he had some pushback, a lot of pushback.
Was there any other legislation you think of?
Dennis basically was always introducing legislation, supporting legislation that affected his district, low-income people, legislation that would help the common man in the state, in his district. He was. I remember we'd be getting pretty much into a really Donnybrook on the Senate floor, and Dennis would come up to the mic and tell a few quotes, settle things down, make a little joke. And so he was a peacemaker in the Senate also. But he always was able to stand his ground once he got the microphone, once he was in the well.
You know, there's a lot of us believe that there's a commonality. If you can do politics in Adams County, Pueblo County, and North Denver, you can do politics anywhere. What's your thought about that?
I think it's true. And Dennis basically proved that to be true as a representative of North Denver and so on. But Dennis came down to Pueblo a lot. He loved Pueblo. A story that I didn't even know about until a few weeks ago. Dennis, from time to time on the Senate floor, would walk in and he'd say, Dobro jutro, which is good morning in Slovenian. And I thought he was one of these guys who just picked up something here, picked up something there. He knew a few words in Slovenian. As it turns out, Dennis studied Slovenian when he was at DU, or Regis. Regis, I'm sorry. Dennis picked up on Slovenian, learned to speak it fluently, and I was amazed. But he came down to Pueblo whenever we had a St. Patrick's Day dinner, which is once a year. He would come down and visit. He was just the kind of a guy, he could have been from Pueblo, and he would have been just as successful in politics as he was in North Denver.
Do you have a favorite Dennis Gallagher story?
Oh, God, there's many. I think, there's so many, they all come together. I always think, I guess I'm not going to come up with the story. I've always looked at Dennis Gallagher, and to this day, and there's not many Dennis Gallaghers. It occurred to me from the first time I met him, even to this point in time, that Dennis Gallagher was one of the most natural politicians to serve in the state legislature, or as far as being the state auditor. And I use the term politician in all of the best ways that we can describe a politician. He was a natural. We all remember the movie Robert Redford, The Natural. Dennis was a natural when it came to politics.
A lot of us talk about him as being the Tip O'Neill of the West. Would that be
Well, that would be very accurate. It really was. He, obviously both Irish, both willing to listen, both able to tell stories, make you laugh. Yeah, I think that would be an accurate title to give him.
What's the best thing and the worst thing that you can think of about Dennis Gallagher?
Well, the best thing I could think about was, the fact that he was very understanding of families. He was the kind of person who understood what the average man, the average woman was going through during some very difficult times. And he always thought as a family. So the best thing I can say about him is he took care of the people in his district and took care of them very, very well. The worst thing, I guess, is Dennis paced himself. He didn't make himself a pain in the butt by going to the microphone all the time like a lot of people did, like Harold McCormick, for instance, and you'll know a lot of the names. They just love to be in the well. Wayne Knox on the House side. Dennis paced himself. He knew that if you were up there too often, you'd wear yourself out. I can't think of any worse thing about Dennis Gallagher, and I guess that's a compliment.
If you could describe Dennis Gallagher in one word, what would that word be?
Compassionate. Compassionate for senior citizens, compassionate for the poor, compassionate for the people of his district, compassionate for his family. Compassionate is the word.
A couple other pieces of legislation and I don't know, Ray, whether you were there or not for them. He carried some legislation about not doing business with South Africa. I don't know whether you were still in the Senate then. And he also carried some anti-bigotry legislation. Do you remember those?
I do, and I can't remember if I was there or if I was so impressed with what he was doing. The South Africa legislation, he and Regis Graf worked together hand in hand to get legislation like that passed, because Dennis and Regis both felt very strongly, as we all should have, as what was happening in Africa as far as apartheid and everything else. Once again, Dennis was very committed. I think I had left for Congress, but I had come back from time to time, and I remember Dennis's involvement both in committee and on the floor of the Senate. What was the other one?
There was an anti-bigotry, some kind of anti-bigotry legislation.
I don't remember that, but I'm not surprised that Dennis would be leading that fight.
Okay.
I have a question. This is now question by committee. Could you describe his style in getting people in the legislature to see things his way? Was he a horse trader? How did he?
Yeah, I would say Dennis was not a horse trader. We had a lot of horse traders in the Senate, going all the way back to Vincent Massari, and I could name a bunch of them. But Dennis was not one of them. He used his logic, he used his humor, he used his very quick mind. People felt comfortable once he had them convinced that they could vote for what he was doing, or what he was proposing, or what he was arguing against. But no, he definitely wasn't a horse trader.
I had just I'm just wondering if you would muse a little bit. It's rare for someone to be in service, in government service for 44 years. I'm just wondering if your thoughts about what kind of person it takes to put that kind of service in. And then talk to Dennis.
Sure. What it takes to serve, as long as Dennis has served, is a determination to do good. It takes a person who's willing to work hard. It takes a person.
I'm sorry, Ray. I don't want to interrupt you, but you're hitting the mic.
I know. I'm fine.
Right, okay.
Let's start again.
Okay, one more time.
Okay. What kind of a person does it take? It takes a person who is committed to making this a better state. It takes a person who's willing to work long hours, and Dennis put those long hours in, working late into the night, sometimes in a committee or on the Senate floor. It takes a person who's committed to doing something for his district and so on. But it also takes a guy, 44 years is a long time. He was comfortable in what he was doing. A lot of people present today know pretty much what he did as the Denver auditor, the Denver city auditor. He was willing to take on a city council. He was willing to make sure that every penny that was being spent correctly. He was always, once again, for the people of Denver, for the little man, not afraid of a city council, not afraid of a mayor. He was there to do a job, just like he was when he was a state representative, a state senator, and so on.
Awesome.
Now, I just have one more question to ask Denny and Terry. When you gave that great answer about being a natural politician, I think you referred to him, as I have found myself doing sometimes, as state auditor instead of city auditor.
City auditor.
Or did I say
Shall
state?
we give that another, could we possibly give it another try? Could you talk about him being a natural politician again?
Sure. Did I put state auditor
Yeah.
in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's look right to Dennis.
Okay. Dennis Gallagher was a natural when it came to politics, just like the person that Robert Redford played in The Natural. He was just naturally, it's almost like he was born to be a politician, and maybe he was. He was a natural in all of his jobs, whether it was a state representative, state senator, city auditor. I think the city of Denver is going to miss him. I think the people of Denver are going to miss him. And I just hope that there's a replacement there that can do just as good a job and be as committed as Dennis has been for the city of Denver, for the state.
I have one question. If I can clear my throat enough to do it. You and Dennis are both come from strong Catholic families.
Uh-huh.
And Dennis talks very much about how the nuns and the priests and particularly, you know, when he went to Regis, his early years plus when he went to Regis, and how that affected him and his life. Did you find a commonality of that when you were in the
We did,
legislature?
and we did. We talked a lot well, didn't talk a lot about it, but we talked about it. We talked about the guilt trips that the nuns and the priests can put on little guys like we were when we were in grade school and so on. But we also talked about the fond memories we had of Sister Mary Dorothy or Sister Agnes Patrice or Father so-and-so. Dennis was and is close to the church. But yeah, we came from similar backgrounds, Catholic education, grade school, high school, college, and so on. I think Dennis, I haven't talked to him since we have this new Pope, but I have a feeling that Dennis Gallagher is very happy with Pope Francis.
Okey doke.
Great.
Okay.
Okay?
That was painless.